Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, hi everybody. Welcome to one of my favorite webinars. And this is how to scale cleaning and maintenance for your rental properties. So one of the reasons it's my favorite subject is it's counterintuitive to many people. There's many things where scaling makes it easier. Well, this is not one of them, as many of you may have already experienced. So here I'm going to walk through the 3 key pillars of how to scale cleaning and maintenance. And the first one is about how to scale at low cost. Then there's, I'll go into about how to scale quality and increase quality at scale. And similarly, how to increase the show up rate at scale. First, let's talk about the cost. So I find it fascinating that no one has ever built a national cleaning company of some kind. And the reason for that is pretty simple when you get into it. It's that there's reverse economies of scale, which means as you grow those businesses, they get more expensive. I want to show that how that works. So first, let's imagine you have a rental property and you bring on someone to help you clean that property for turnovers. She does a great job. She's low cost. You're able to communicate effectively with her. That works well, but sometimes she can't make it. She's sick, whatever. So you bring on a second person. They might be not your preferred, so you only have them do some jobs, but sharing knowledge is becoming hard now. Coordination is becoming hard now. And it can be really hard to hang on to somebody if they're really like the number 2 player. So you end up hiring a manager or bringing on a manager to solve all these problems for you and figure things out. But this adds a lot of added expense and marginal expense too. So now every job that you're doing has to carry the load of these additional management structure. Now, if you hire an agency, they're doing the same thing. So this applies to whether or not you bring people on as contractors, employees, you're bringing on agencies. The scaling problem exists for everybody, and it only gets worse as they scale up nationally or into different regions. The more layers of management structure, it's just more layers of cost. Now, again, agencies only make the problem worse because they have different cost structures, they have different marketing costs, they're spending a lot of money on things that don't relate to your business and getting turnover cleanings done. So agencies are not a way to solve this problem. There is a better way, and that better way is basically with software and using software not to replace the people doing the job on site. It's replacing the managers. It's replacing the coordination, the communication, the inspections, all that stuff. So you don't have to use Tidy, but I'll of course use Tidy as an example because we do a really great job of this and we've been working on this for many years. So essentially how we structure it is you can set up your priority list in your workflow to say, hey, first, I want Kim to do the job. My second favorite is Maria. And then it can go to a group of people. You can create these sort of custom workflows about your priority order. So when you send them a job request, instead of the old-fashioned way, which is picking up the phone and dialing and figuring out who can do what, you can send out this list. It's a little bit like e-signatures, like with a DocuSign. You can send it to one person and the other person, and it's essentially setting up the same thing. So when the pro gets this request, they're getting it by email, text, however they choose, and they can easily accept the job. They can see it in context with any of the other jobs. There's no app installation anyway. You can use this with any pro that you add into the system. They can even be your employees. That's not a limitation. So with Tidy, you can also use this to find a new pro if needed. Now, this is not a requirement. Many people don't use it, but some people do use it. So you're in a pinch, someone can't make it, Kim, Maria, John, everybody, nobody can help you. Well, you can set your criteria. What equipment do you require? what certifications are important to you. Do they have passed an internal training program? What's their service history? Whatever you want to set, you can set it. And then we're going to find you a match from our network of pros. We have a large network of pros that use us to automate their cleaning businesses. So this could be a really great tool, tens of thousands of pros out there that you can connect to. And we'll even help arrange standbys to improve reliability. I'll talk a little bit more about standbys a little bit later here, but that's something we can also help with. We can also automate the process of scheduling the jobs. Now, before I said replacing that phone call process, well, you don't even need to do anything if you connect it to your accounts. You can connect it to property management systems, or you can connect it directly to channels like Airbnb. Either way, we're going to pull in the reservation data. And again, if you want to, this is optional, but you can automatically trigger job requests that you configure in between when a guest checks out and when the next guest checks in. So this is a pretty common workflow for us, is somebody will integrate their Airbnb account and maybe their VRBO account. We'll see one guest checking out from over here and schedule that job request. It'll send it out to your pro list in the priority order that you set, and it'll get that done before the next guest checks in. You can easily pay and manage service pros however you want to, including by credit card, and then track all those payments, invoices, and agreements for every vendor, every property, so you can get a handle on how the billing relationship works with all of these vendors that you're working with. So if there's anything we don't have with our native integrations, or you have more powerful use cases you need, we have an open API, the world's only open cleaning and maintenance API that you can use to augment your applications. And this can be quite helpful sometimes for things like finance that requires some other like reporting, automatically filled in. Sometimes people do it for internal operations reasons. There's a variety of things you can do with the API that allow you to really, dig in there and be powerful, because we're big believers in automation. So next, let's talk about scaling quality. So the first thing you need to do, in our opinion, about scaling quality is making sure you get the right people in the door. Now, for everybody, this means something a little bit different. It starts most of the time with what are your requirements for insurance or training or background check or whatever. You can set them in the app. And then we will go ahead and get the COIs, the certificates of insurance, any other information necessary in order to confirm whether or not they're in compliance with your policies. We can help you set up custom training. I mentioned this a couple of times. So if you really have very, very narrow requirements, we don't recommend doing this for anybody. But if you have something that's very unique to your business, you have a lot of properties, you really need them to do a couple on-brand things, you can set up custom training to complete in advance. And now, of course, that can narrow your pool of people that can help you, but it can increase quality. It's really all up to you. With many things, there's always a trade-off about getting the sort of availability and the more pools of people to help you versus having people that can satisfy your exact requirements. So we can help you with that. Feel free to reach out if you have more questions on that. And of course, you can get track compliance alerts from people. So you can see, was training out of date, missing COI, certificate of insurance, what have you. Now, with our digital to-do list is sort of the second rung of the ladder. The first thing was all about getting good people in the door. And now it's about getting the right to-do lists for people to do. Because if they don't know exactly what they're supposed to do, people are not going to be successful. We think it's important that this is digital. So it's crystal clear exactly what they do. You can send it to everybody. You can add photos and videos, doing things you couldn't do on paper. Right? So a video overview of something you couldn't even do on paper, but video is tremendously powerful. And basically, I think there's a pretty good rule of thumb, which is video is better than photos, which is better than text most of the time. Depends on the situation, but it's good to have a tool. You can also require feedback from pros. Again, this is something you can't do on paper, is you can ask them to take before and after photos. You can ask them to take inventory and have that plug in and let you know if there's a problem. All that is best done with a digital to-do list. Now with Tidy, they can easily see your list. They don't need any app or login. You can just text them that link and they'll be done. So the final step is we got the good person in the door that matched our criteria, and then we showed them exactly what to do. And the sort of next is confirming that they actually did it. There's two main ways that we do that. There's on-site inspections. So let's just say we have some cleanings, window washings, whatever going on. You want to make sure that they're actually done correctly. You can either have employees or contractors, whoever you assign, do this on-site inspection. This is where they actually travel to the location. They do this inspection following maybe another checklist. You can create another checklist for them, or just use their best judgment unless you know if it was done right. The other way that lots of people do it, now this is the less expensive thing, and this is quite popular, particularly with COVID, this was popular, is assigning checklists for remote inspection. So the person goes on site, and then before they're able to leave, there's someone that needs to sign off on those before and after photos and the checklist of things that they did. At least talk to them on the phone. There's a variety of ways that you can set it up, but the idea is you can have somebody remote going to make sure that things are done the way that you want them to. It's probably never quite as good as going on site, but wow, it's a lot less expensive. And it allows you to scale because you have sort of one great person doing things all over the country. So finally, let's talk about increasing the show up rate. You need a plan about how to get people to show up to your jobs reliably. And our answer for this is frankly just redundancy. The industry average show up rate is about 75%. We get this number from two sources. One are thousands of property managers that use our software to manage their vendors. And then the other side of that is the thousands of vendors that use our software to manage their businesses. So we have really two lenses on this show up rate and what does reliability really look like. And in the home services industry, it's typical for some people is quite shockingly low. Now, it also depends a lot on your definition. You're talking about on time, like did they show up when they're scheduled, or do they show up within a couple of days of when scheduled, whatever it is. But it's just note that it's quite low. We do think it's possible for you to screen and pick the right people to get this number up to maybe 85%. At some scale. Of course, you can always find one person who can show up 99% of the time, but this presentation is not really about that. Is hey, if you have maybe 10 properties, how are you going to make sure that you're reliable across all those 10 properties at different locations, or 100 or 1,000? But really beyond, like, you can get a lot done at maybe one property that you might not be able to get away with once you hit 2. So anyway, if you have 85% people, a person with 85% show up rate or more, that's great. Now, most people are not happy with 85%. I know I wouldn't be happy with 85% show up rate. Maybe for residents, that's okay. You just reschedule them for a different day. But for rental property, you need people to show up. So realistically, the way that you have to get this number up is by having multiple redundant people coming. Like unaffiliated people too is the best. So if you combine, this part's just math. If you combine two 85% show up rates, you get 98% show up rate. And really to exceed 99% of the time, you need to book at least 3 independent vendors, pros, to come to a location. So for some people, that's overwhelming and that's shocking. Now, some of those things they need to be simultaneous necessarily. They might be in a serial. So there's really 2 ways that you can accomplish this. The first one is just acting fast. So let's just say you have that first person coming and they tell you, oh, I can't make it in 4 hours. Well, you can solve it with a vendor if you act fast. So ToDo, you can set up things where you can instantly request help when there's an issue. You can set your backup requirements, which are saying like, oh, I can get this done no earlier than this time, no later than this time, not during certain hours, whatever you'd like. That allows you to really, when you're sending out these requests to pros, figure out you're already making a trade-off. So what are the trade-offs that you're going to allow to get this thing done and get that guest, the cleaning before the guest comes. So with your digital to-do list, they already know what to do, which is, again, this is another reason why we find digital to-do lists are extremely important, because if you're trying to deal with paper and trying to get this thing in the hands of people, it's going to add another confusing rung, and it's just a challenge. Use digital. Okay. The other thing is around standbys. Now, hotels or places that have a very consolidated physical structure, they can be reliable because they can have multiple people on salary on site. So if you have 3 cleaners on salary for your large hotel, you're going to be fine. You're going to have a very high percentage happen rate. You have redundancy. Somebody can't show up. That's okay. You got the other ones. However, for people with distributed locations, you need more people to cover those properties. You don't have that same level of redundancy. It's not as easy. And many people don't want to hire those people on salary at all times because you just don't use them as much, right? 1,000-room hotel is definitely going to be using some cleaners, but you might have guests intermittent checking in and out. And so you don't want to do that. So what you can do is have essentially standby people. Another person, so in this example I'm sort of showing on the screen, you can have two people assigned the jobs, and you can have a third person on standby waiting and saying, hey, in case one of these 2 people don't show up, then basically show up. So if but you're going to have to pay that person something. It's sort of like getting an option on a cleaning. You might be able to say, hey, you know what, I'll give you $20 to be on standby. And if you have to do the job, great, it can count towards the job. But if you can't do the job, then I'm going to give you $20. Something like that can work. We've had arrangements like that before. It's similar to the way that our system works. But one thing that we can do for you is we have pools of standbys available. So let's just say there are 100 clients in a metro area, all with jobs at roughly the same time. Well, I can guarantee you that a large number of those people, those pros assigned to those jobs, are going to just cancel. Again, statistically, you're looking at about, if there's 100 people assigned, you're looking at about 25 people that can cancel. So there can be a pool of standbys that's 25, 30, 40 people, because they also can cancel. So anyway, this pool of standbys can be made available to cover down for you. Now, this has a huge cost benefit, because rather than paying every time for somebody to sit there and not show up, you can basically share that cost with other people. And essentially they're almost always getting used. So you're basically only paying maybe a couple of bucks if nobody in the pool is using them. But otherwise, you're really just paying when they're coming there to help save you and get that cleaning done. So pooling standbys is a great way to keep your costs down, but increase reliability. And it's something that's very difficult to replicate at the agency or other level. So we also use some tools to further reduce the costs of standbys, and we call them predictive standbys, or sometimes we call them smart standbys. And essentially what we do is we use machine learning with the vendor's full history and the property owner's full history to try to understand what are the most likely cancellations to occur. And based off of that, we're going to smartly sort of allocate the tell the standby that, hey, this is the area that's like the hot spot. Like, this is where you're probably going to be needed. We're able to give them more insights. This saves everybody time and money because they're getting closer to where they're most likely going to be needed. And so it just makes things better. So we have many other tools that are way powerful beyond anything you're going to get at an agency or by employing a bunch of people, unless you hire a full-time data scientist or something. So first of all is reporting. Being able to see everything in one place, your jobs, payments, vendors, maintenance, cleanings, just everything that's going on, all your assets in one spot. You can also create reports about any of the activity going on, the costs and such, and you can share those reports with others. So for example, if you're a property management company and you're trying to share that information with an owner and you want them to know, hey, I'm on top of it, you can generate reports to help with that too. We have literally hundreds of ways and features that we built over the years to keep your property in perfect shape. So, reach out to us if you have any questions. For Tidy, our pricing, now everything I said in this presentation is true regardless of whether you use us or not, but certainly Tidy is really the most affordable way to do a lot of these things. It's actually free for up to 2 properties a month, $20 per month per property after that. And if you're using us to help you find somebody to serve you in a job, there's going to be transparent pricing. So you're going to choose whether you want that or not. But that's really going to depend on the situation, is it last minute, what's the service, stuff like that. But don't worry, we make it all transparent, and we're only here to help. We're only additive is basically our goal. It's like we should be a awesome tool for your rental property management business. That's basically it about Tidy. Let me see here if I have any questions that pop up. Okay, I have a few questions. So the first one is about remote inspections. They're asking, let's see. Well, let me see if I can summarize it. It's like basically, how do I need somebody to like log in as a separate account? I think they're asking basically how do the remote inspections work. So remote inspections work. They're from inside your account. You add multiple users to your account, and then what they can do is basically set parameters that will pop up alerts inside of their app, which it could be their web app. Like most people use it on the web when they're sort of coordinating things. We'll say, hey, 1 Main Street, is done waiting inspection. You can click it and then say that you can look at everything like that's going on there. You can see all the before and after photos and everything and call the person. That's sort of how it works. And then you just click a button when you want to approve it. Okay, the next one's on insurance, COI management stuff. The question seems to be, okay, so it's basically like, how does that work? Like, what do you need to do? Well, it's basically like a form that you set up in the site. You just you have to tell us what you want from a property. So do you want general liability insurance of $1 million, carrier level greater than B+ or whatever? You can set that up. It's just in your app under the compliance section. Okay, a few more questions here. I'm going to try to look at the themes of them, try to understand. Let's see. Okay, some people here are saying they don't see the same reliability levels, that I'm saying in the presentation. They're saying, oh, they're able to see like 90%. No, that's great. I think if you have a good set of vendors and pros that are able to give you, 90% reliability, that would be a real win. I don't think it changes very much about the underlying assumptions here. It just is helpful, just because you need less to solve. But I don't think for most people. So I think there's probably two answers to if you're seeing different numbers, like if you're seeing a 90% show up, right, versus the numbers I showed. I think those do happen in pockets. They do happen in regions. They do happen for people that are very engaged. Great clients. So the numbers I'm really showing are really about averages. So as you get scale, again, I think there's sort of, my opinion, but this is informed by the data that we see, is that you're not really going to dramatically exceed 85% at scale. Sorry, that's like show up rate. And that's people showing up within, let's just say within a few hours of the appointment. Now, if somebody can show up like a week later, that wouldn't be included in the numbers that I was showing. Now, for rental properties, that's typically not very helpful to show up a week later, but it depends on your circumstance. What's your utilization rate of your rental property? So, I'm running out of time here. I want to keep this short. So, I think I will go ahead and wrap it up. If you have any questions, though, please reach out to one of your account managers if you've been contacted by one. But you can also always email us at concierge@todo.com. So when our team will get in touch with you, and we look forward to helping you. We think we're a great way to help you scale. And if you have questions, look, even if you're not going to use us, we've had people that reach out and just ask our opinion about a bunch of things. We're happy to provide it because honestly, I think in the long run, you're likely to use Tidy for something anyway, because we are a really great tool for rentals. So that's essentially like our mantra here, is we just want to be helpful. And we know eventually, as long as we're keeping up and providing a ton of value to rental property managers like yourselves, then someday we'll probably use you, or you'll use us. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. Bye.